Gentlemen, welcome back to the Tiege Hanley Starting a Business, Building a Brand vlog. This one, big number 321. And so there was a business question last week that I would like to read. There were a ton of business questions that we're going to get to, but the first one is one that I want to start with because it has to do with luxury watches. And is it a good investment, or do I view my watches as investments? All right, so the question is from our friend Mike Lembo. He says, business question. Hey, Aaron. You have shown that a hobby of yours is watches. My question is, do you view your more expensive Rolexes as an investment like Kevin O'Leary? Or is watch collecting just a hobby and you don't plan to sell them regardless of if they gain or lose value over time? So, incredible questions, and yes, you are right. I am a huge watch slut. One of my favorite things in terms of watches are Rolex watches, right? For me, I saw a GQ magazine years and years ago, and I saw a Milgauss, a Rolex Milgauss on whoever, I don't even remember who it was. I saw this watch, and I'm like, my God, I looked at it and the green, and I was like, that is the most beautiful watch I'd ever seen. I'm like, that is awesome. And for me, you know, the whole idea, I'm also Italian, right? And so all those old like mob guys are always rocking like presidential Rolexes and Rolexes. And so Rolex to me was like the pinnacle of amazing watches. Now I know that for you guys that are really like deep into watches, a lot of you will be like, yo, Rolex sucks, it's Patek, or it's whatever, or it's AP, or whatever, and I get it, right? I love all watches, whether or not it's cheap ass watches like Timex or super expensive luxe watches. I love watches. And so when I saw that GQ magazine back when I was young, like I don't even remember when, I just remember the watch. And I saw it, I'm like, man, someday, if I'm ever successful, I want to buy myself that watch. And so a few years ago, not too long ago, I was in a position where I was like, you know what? It's time. It's time for me to treat myself to something that I've really wanted. Now, the truth is that I'm not a very materialistic person. I know you're like, wait a second. I saw your watch collection, Alpha, which we're going to talk about in a second. How do you say that? And I get it. But in terms of stuff, I've never wanted to be successful to buy stuff. That was never my motivation. That was never my goal. It was simply to feel like I made a difference in people's lives and to be happy and financially stable. That was the goal. Now, when you're successful, you also have the ability to possibly buy some stuff. And so I decided to treat myself. And see, here I am. The guilty Italian in me is trying to make excuses. And so what I'd like to do now, before I talk about investing and what the value of these watches are, because literally it's insane what they are now, I'd like to actually just run down my luxury watch collection and show you what I have and kind of the story behind it. So this is my beloved Rolex Milgauss. I actually switched out the Oyster strap and put on a black NATO. As you can see, it's kind of got like a green tint. It's because it has a green sapphire crystal, and it also has a little lightning bolt second hand. Anyway, I bought this for myself. There was a guy that I knew that was basically like into watches. I'm like, hey, can I get one? And he hooked me up with an authorized dealer in Arkansas from this place called Sissy's Log Cabin, right? You think Sissy's Log, it doesn't sound, anyway. I got this, I got it for an incredible deal, right? This was back when they were actually giving watches or selling watches for like 20%, 30% under MSRP. And so I developed this relationship with this guy and I bought this watch. And when I got it, man, I was like, damn, like I fell in love. But then I'm like, wait a second. I started looking around and I bought a few other watches. My second watch, second Rolex was, what was it? A GMT Master 2 that I still, actually I don't own. I gave it to my dad as like, I think it was like a birthday present or something like that. I knew that I was buying some other ones, and I am not somebody that rotates watches. Like, I know that there are a lot of people that are into watches, like Kevin O'Leary, perfect example. He will wear like a bunch of different watches. Whatever one is the newest one, that's the one that I end up liking the most, and I just wear it like crazy. Anyway, after the GMT Master 2, I bought a Daytona, a white-faced steel Daytona. And once again, I'm getting all these watches at the time for like 20% off lower than MSRP. And so I bought the white-faced Daytona. I didn't really wear it that much. And so my buddy was like, hey, if you want to get rid of it, I know a guy that'll buy it. And so I literally sold that watch for like $8,000. and today it's worth like $30,000. And so that was definitely a big loss in terms of my watch buying and investing experience. The next watch I bought was this one. It is the Yachtmaster Rose Gold on the Oyster Flex strap. Now, when I got this watch, all right, this watch was my like ultimate grail watch. I saw it on a billboard. I was driving down 85 in Atlanta and I saw it on this billboard. Hold on, let me zoom in. There we go. And I'm like, oh my God, that is the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It had just come out and I went into the store. I looked, I'm like, dude, I would never buy that. I would never pay, like, at the time, I think MSRP was like around like $24,000 and the Rolex Milgauss was, I think, like around like $6,000 I paid for it. And I'm like, no way, never, ever am I gonna be able to afford that. Fast forward about 6 months, and my buddy who was the AP or the authorized dealer was like, "Yo, we got a brand new one. If you want it, I'll sell it to you for like $19,000." And so that is why that's the story. That is why I ended up selling my Daytona in order to basically spend the money or put the money towards this watch. I bought it and it was like game over. I love it. I'm never going to want another watch again. But then I saw this. But then Rolex came out with this. It is an all rose gold GMT Master, two-tone. It's called the Root Beer. And I was like, yo, you are absolutely beautiful. There's just something about the rose gold that I love. And I saw this watch. Once again, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm ever buying a watch that's, at the time, I think when it came out, I believe it was like $34,000. And so I had my eye on this thing. It was really hard to get at the time. So when I saw that this was coming out, I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna get on the list just to be on the list. And so a few months later, my guy in Arkansas called me. Is like, yo, I got one. Do you want it? I'm like, how much is it? He's like, $34,000. I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't. And so I said, no, I passed. Give it to person number 2 on the list. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it. And that, for me, is one of the worst things ever. I kept thinking about it. I called him back. I'm like, hey, do you still have that watch? He's like, no, I don't. Now they're even more hard to get and difficult to get. And so I went on the website Chrono 24. Chrono 24, for those of you who are into high-end watches or watches in general, is an amazing website. It's a place where you can actually buy a lot of pre-owned luxury watches. And so I was on there. I saw somebody had this for sale. It was never worn. It was in the box. It had all the stickers on it. And it was actually from a dealer, and long story short, I ended up buying it, but I paid over retail. This was right when things were starting to get a little bit crazy. And they have continued to get crazy, which I'm gonna show you in a second, my watch portfolio, what I bought them for and what they're actually valued at now. Anyway, then I bought this one. It's the Date Submariner. All right, all steel, beautiful, beautiful, classic watch. I bought this one for retail price from Antonio Centeno. So Antonio probably is kicking himself now. But about, what was it, 2 years ago or maybe last year? Anyway, Antonio found an authorized dealer that actually sold him this watch for like MSRP. And it was like, I think it was like, I guess like $10,000, $9,000, somewhere around there. And he never wore it. He's like, I'm just kind of wasting it. And I said, well, if you want to sell it, I'll buy it from you. And he's like, well, okay. And so he ended up selling me this thing for his cost, which was, I think it was $10,000. And the idea was that I wanted to get my wife like a men's like super sexy like watch, because personally, I think women that wear like men's like 40 millimeter watches, especially like Rolexes, I just think it's sexy. And she was always looking at my watches, and she didn't really have a super nice watch. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And I surprised my wife and got her this. Now, what I would like to show you is my portfolio. All right, so currently this is my Chrono 24 portfolio. I've got the watches that I own loaded in there. The current value is, they're saying $143,000, all right? Look at that, right? It's up $63,000. Look at the price of these things, all right? That one is going for $19,000. It's up 122%. All right, the one I bought my wife for like $10,000 from Antonio is now like $18,000. It's up like 79%. My Milgauss, poor little Milgauss, nobody really wants that, $11,000. Still up 64% from what I bought it. All right, the Yachtmaster is up 84%. It's valued at $34,000. And the bad boy right there, people are spending $60,000 for that dumbass watch. So who wants to buy one of my watches? I'm kidding. They're not actually for sale. I don't anticipate ever selling them. I love them. I love my watches. They all have a special meaning to me. I also beat the ever-living hell out of them, right? You know, this one I wear to work out. I do everything in it. And it's got scratches, and it's just, you know, that's my whole thing. Like, people that invest in watches, they really want to make sure that they protect them, and they don't. Me, I'm like, whatever. I bought this bad boy to wear. I'm going to wear it. It's going to get scratched. It's going to get all effed up. And that's my thing. Like, I don't look at these as investments. The fact that they have increased in value is great. But was I thinking it would? No. Did I anticipate it? Absolutely not. Am I glad they're more valuable? I guess, but it doesn't really matter, honestly, because I'm not planning on selling them. So to the question, do I look at watches as investments? No, because I don't know what I'm doing. Whenever I try to do things actually, I've never tried to do things like that. I don't get into collectibles. I don't think about things that way. Now, are these a good investment for somebody just getting into it? I don't think so. Maybe, but I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the watch market. It is crazy. One of the reasons, though, that I do buy Rolex watches is A, I love the brand, and B, they do typically hold their value. And so that was one of the things. If you're going to spend a lot of money on something, you don't want it to automatically depreciate like a car. The only reason they're up, though, is because people are crazy and you can't get them. Now, in another 5 years from now, is it still going to be crazy? Or is this watch that, you know, somebody could potentially buy for $50,000, $60,000 now, in a year from now or 2 years from now, if Rolex or whoever sort of opens up the manufacturing and provides more watches, or the demand goes down, all of a sudden, it's like you aren't going to appreciate, you're going to lose money. And so, you know, Rolex isn't the watch companies are not the ones that is jacking up the prices. They're squeezing the production a little bit, not allowing or allocating as many to some of the authorized dealers. But in terms of an investment, it is not one that I would recommend getting into. But having a nice watch is one of those things that it does kind of boost your confidence a little bit. And that was one of the things that I noticed when I started wearing my Milgauss. You know, it was interesting, but you know, I felt like when I had this thing on, right? If you're a watch guy, you notice other people's watches. And I felt like when I walked in a room with a nice watch, it kind of gave me more credibility, even though that's a little bit crazy, but it's this weird thing. Like, when you wear a nice watch, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It boosts your confidence and it just makes you feel a little bit better about yourself. But anyway, watches, I love investing. I don't invest in watches. Mine just happened to go up. It was luck. I had nothing to do with it. Something I do have something to do with is answering some of your amazing business questions. Gentlemen, this vlog is all about helping you avoid some of the pitfalls that we had faced at Tiege Hanley, or I have faced in some of my other ventures, all right? And so if you've got a business question, start it with business question and ask it down below. Each week I try to get to a few of them. This week happened to have a ton of them, and so I'm gonna blast through them, you know, as quickly as possible and not sort of linger on any one particular, all right? The first business question is from our friend T. Parker. He says, "Hey Alpha, I'm probably in the minority here, but I'm super interested in your salon business. I know you get 6% as a landlord." I'm not sure where that 6% comes from. I don't know where you got that number. "And 26% as part owner. But would you be willing to talk about how much you actually made in the first year so we can hear how profitable it was?" So I get basically I think it's 10 grand a month for being the landlord. So it's $120,000 a year that I get from, you know, basically just leasing the salon. So that goes to me, right, as a landlord. Now, in terms of revenue, we did over $2 million year number one. I will just do the math. Our profitability, profit margin after all expenses and everything is around 15-ish%. And so maybe a little bit lower than 15 this first year. We had a lot of expenses. You know, we're trying to figure things out, dial things in. And so, you know, call it, you know, on $1 million, you know, 15% is $150,000. Multiply that by 2, we did $2 million, around $300,000 profit. But you also have to remember, they paid the landlord, they paid me. Steven gets a salary, Tony gets a salary. And so that's what was left over. So about 300 grand. So you can do the math, and it is a great business. But this year I know that I think we can double that. I think we can get it up to probably closer to that $4 million range. And I hope with some of the changes and tweaks and personnel things that we got working, I think we can get the profit margin up, probably closer to like 16 or 17. Optimal, like amazing, like running it like super tight would be 20%. But it is a great business because people always need to get their hair did. They do. The next business question comes from our friend Shohan M. He says, hi there, Aaron. Hi there, Shohan. Nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. It's really amazing how many businesses you have and how you're building a house and looking after your mother-in-law and just doing so many other things at once. So my question to you is, do you ever get stressed out by it all? Do you ever just feel like leaving everything behind and going someplace far to relax? Or do you have a method or way of coping with everything that is happening and just face it head on? Because I know dealing with so much and with COVID going on, it must be easy it must not be easy for you. So do you have any tips or advice for how you can, or that you can share? Do I get stressed out over all the shit? Yes, 100% I do. One of the things that I do for me is exercise, right? That's one of the ways that I cope. I exercise every day, twice a day typically. I go for a run in the morning. It's a chance for me to kind of just like be outside. I love being outside. I go for hikes on weekends. I love being active. And being active is one of the ways that I cope and handle things. Most things that I am biting off or that I do are my choice. And so when it's your choice as opposed to something mandatory, it gets a lot easier. The mother-in-law thing, that is definitely something that is not necessarily a choice. I guess it is a choice. Technically, it's a choice, but it's a choice that I feel is not, of course, right? You take care of your family. And so that has been the one thing that has kind of been the toughest thing to kind of navigate in terms of just figuring out schedules and making time. But it's one of those things where I feel like it's a limited thing, right? I know that I'm not going to be doing this forever. How many more years is she going to be around? 5, 6, 7, 8? I'm not sure. But it's something that's important to me. And when something is important to you like that takes precedent. But I'm also in a very fortunate position that I've been able to be successful to the point at which I can afford to do that. And so one of the other things and reasons why I love business and why I love and feel so fortunate that I've been able to figure some things out is that nothing for me feels better than taking care of people that I love. And it's not for me. It's not because I get to buy nice watches or build a new house. It's for helping to take care of people that I love. And so, most of my family works for me. And so, I love my employees. I love just being able to support people and help them. And it's just, that to me feels the best. Like helping people for me is the number one thing that honestly will change your life. And it's something that every day I get to do. And so if it means I've got to work, I've got to put in time, I've got to put in energy in certain things, I do it. And I love doing it. Now, do I get stressed out? Absolutely. But it's manageable. And some days it's not. Some days it gets a little bit overwhelming, but get a good night's sleep, exercise in the morning, next day, for me, I feel better. The next question comes from our friend Steven Jens. What's up, Steven? He says, hey, Aaron, for an entrepreneur like you who has friends like Alex and Jose, how can someone promote their own product and say it's the best without creating problems with other entrepreneurs? Like if you promote your hair product and Alex promotes Forte series, how can you promote without possibly offending the other content creator? First off, if you're worried about offending other people, that is that is a sign that you're not going to be successful. I think it's one of those things where you can promote your own thing without tearing other people down. And I think that's the thing that we all, as far as entrepreneurs like Alex, Jose, and myself, we've all done fairly well. In terms of we promote our own stuff and we all believe that ours is the best. And you can do that without saying, Pete and Pedro, buy Pete and Pedro and it's better than Alex, or, buy Enemy Shades because it's better than Jade Black. Now, real talk, when I came out with Enemy, there was a little bit of a rub, or Jose was bothered that I was coming out with a sunglass company. And so for a little while, there was a little bit of, I guess, like friction or maybe animosity, but Jose and I are big boys and we realize that we're entrepreneurs, and that was one of the things, like, we all can eat. We just need to, focus on doing the best and being the best companies and building the best brands we possibly can. But it's smart, right? For guys like Alex, Jose, and myself, and some of these other guys in the space, it's a gold rush. now is the time, because you never know what's going to happen. And so if you're interested in trying something or starting something, throw it out there. Alex created his own clothing company. Is Jose pissed at him? Probably not. They both are there's enough food for everybody to eat at the same time without throwing shade or trashing other people's, brands or business. Everybody advertises a little bit differently. Everybody's got their core audience. And so really it's just about make the best product you can, get it out there, and don't trash other people's products, or don't sell yours by tearing other people down. I think that is something that we all have done really, really well. But great question. Which brings us to another business question in the same genre from our friend Akshay. What's up, brother? Good to be here. Or I should say, thanks for being here. Good to see you. He says, what is your take on competition and how has it affected you? How do you feel when sometimes you see other people in your industry killing it and you are not? I don't look at, see, that's one of the things. I forget who said this. Was it Jeff from Style OG? I'm not looking at other people's pockets. I hope that Alex is doing amazingly well. I hope that Jose is doing amazingly well. And I hope that I do amazingly well. I can only control what I can control. If you bog yourself down with worrying and looking at other people and comparing yourself to them and your business to them, this is wasted time and energy. Now, sometimes do you think about it? I'm sure. Yes, I do. Sometimes I think about it. I wonder how Alex is doing in Forte. I wonder how Joe's doing with Blue Mine. I wonder how Jose's doing with He Grew. Yes, you think about it. You wonder, right? But it's not one of those things where you spend too much time. You've got to continue to control your own destiny. And personally, I feel like I'm doing all right. And so, I'm doing better in certain areas. I'm sure that other people are doing better in other areas. But as a whole, I believe that we all support each other. And that's one of the things that I've been really proud of with our space. A lot of these other industries in space, like fitness and whatever, they're constantly tearing each other down and trying to one up each other, and we have never done that. It's always been, hey, let's grow together, and that is one of the reasons why we started Menfluential Media, to help everybody kind of monetize their passion and what they love to do. And so for me, I am just focusing on the things that I can control and gonna ride this wave as long as I can, and hopefully be smart enough to know when it's time to get off. Speaking of competition, this next question is a good one. It's from our friend Jason Polk. What's up, brother? Thanks for being here. He says, business question, is there a strategy for you in dealing with competition? For example, you are still doing Dollar Shave Club promotions even though there's an overlap with Pete and Pedro, while you decide to run right at Chassis. Looking forward to seeing your 2022 success. Thanks, brother. So this is a good question. There are certain brands that, so you can, so how do I explain this? So the reason why I had not promoted my own or developed my own powder with Chassis is because Chassis was at the time, they were a great partner. They did a lot of advertising, but then over the years they have started to wane, and the amount of promotions that we did, it wasn't as much, to the point of which they stopped using Menfluential Media in terms of promotions. And I had always told Terry, the minute they stop, I'm coming out with a powder, because I've got some ideas for some powder that I think would be amazing. And so when they stopped, it was right away to the drawing board to develop a powder, because I felt like I could do it better. Chassis is a great product. The Pete and Pedro powder, though, is better for 3 reasons. Number 1, it's more affordable. Number 2, it smells better. And number 3, it works better. And so for me, when talking about a powder, because over the years I have talked about and promoted and talked about the amazingness of Chassis, at the time, Chassis was the best product on the market, period, bar none. It was awesome. I loved it. And personally, I feel like I really helped sort of build Chassis, the brand. I know that I did. I know for a fact that I did, and I was very instrumental in helping that product grow, because I started. They were doing nothing, and then we started. Anyway, long story short, now that they're not, and I'm creating my own, I feel it's totally good. Now, it would be hypocritical if Chassis came back and said, hey, I'll promote, I'll pay you for another promotion. For me to then promote, I couldn't do it, right? You can't do that. One of the things that I have tried to do is maintain my credibility. And so whenever I talk about a product, it's the best, whatever, I truly believe it is the best until it's not. And then I promote another product. Now, in terms of Dollar Shave Club, yeah, I promote Dollar Shave Club. I love Dollar Shave Club. I love Dollar Shave Club products. And if you notice, I never promote Pete and Pedro shave products on my YouTube channel. I just don't do it. And the reason is pretty simple, because I have a deal with Dollar Shave Club, and it would be hypocritical of me to try to sell Dollar Shave Club and then in the next video try to sell. It just doesn't work. And so for me, when it comes to competition, if I've got a long-term partner with a brand, I am going to, I'm gonna roll with them. But if it ends up that they become not a partner, then maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll create my own, because that's what I do. I'm an entrepreneur. And so if there's an opportunity, I look for the opportunity and I'm gonna seize it. Powder, there's a huge opportunity, and it's a great product, best on the market. But great question. Oh, and one other thing. So if I'm promoting something, right, I will not, you've never seen me talk about another hair product after I develop Pete and Pedro, right? I don't do it. And one of the deals with Dollar Shave Club is I don't promote their hair product. They've got hair product. They've also got face products. I don't promote their face products because I have a skincare company. And so in some of the agreements, there are limitations to what I promote and what I don't promote. And so that's something else that we've been able to do. So in terms of competition, I really try to do best by the brand and focus on helping them become successful. The next business question comes from our friend Chrono. Wow, this could have been my worst name butchering ever. I'm sorry, it's a tongue twister though. Sir, my question is how to deal with powerful people who are trying to bring you down and take advantage of you. This is a great question, but for me, if there's somebody in my life or that I am around that is not does not have my best interest in mind or is trying to bring me down, I get away from them. I get them out of my life wherever possible. The trick is identifying when that's going on. But, sometimes it could be a parent, sometimes it could be a family member. It's about limiting your exposure. It's about taking care of yourself. But if there's somebody in your life that's powerful, trying to bring you down, run the hell away. And the last business question that we're gonna get to today, and if I didn't get to yours, if there was still something that you're interested in, just copy and paste it into this vlog. Next week, I will try to get to more of your questions. It's from our friend Felipe Vital. He says, "Hi, Aaron. How do you make your clients trust your judgment when you're a young professional? I dress the most professional I can be. I've even changed the way I walk and talk because I realized I was talking really fast. Now I talk more calmly, but some clients, especially the older ones, just don't trust me. They see my face and all they can see is my lack of experience, even though I'm one of the best associates at the firm. Because you and Antonio always talk about be the best you can to strive for." Okay, so this is something that I think a lot of young people struggle with, right? Being taken seriously. For me, I know I did when I was younger. Whenever I would, do anything, professionally, like go into a bank to try to get a loan, I would take my earrings out, I would comb my hair, make it look more professional. The only advice, if you've already done these things, right, there's no changing the fact that you look young or that you are young. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and there's nothing that you can do about that. But what you can do is just execute. Be the best at whatever you're doing. And the truth is that actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than appearance. If you are somebody that gets the shit done and can actually do it and make it happen, and you've got the experience or have a track record of success, it doesn't matter. And the beautiful thing, honestly, in the way and the place and the time that we live now is that it used to be, I think, more of a handicap when you were younger talking to people that are older. But now, with the age of technology, it's kind of like a young man's game. And so I truly feel like being young isn't as big of a deal as it used to be, as long as you are presenting yourself in a respectable, grown-up manner. If you're not, then that's another problem. But it sounds like you're doing everything you should be. And so I would just say work harder and just put up and make it happen. There's no getting around the fact that you're young. Get it out of your head. Don't even think about it. Go in there, kick ass, be awesome. Make sure that you got a great handshake. And then execute, gentlemen. It's always about execution. People don't care how young they are. People don't care how young you are if you're getting the job done and doing the work, gentlemen. As long as you do the work, you get your job done, you are good to go. Gentlemen, speaking of going, it's time for me to get out of here. We love you more than our double monk strap shoes, and thank you so much for hanging and rolling with the Tiege Hanley, starting a business, building a brand vlog. But seriously, does anybody want to buy my watch? I'm kidding. Or am I?